Hi, welcome to Zazzle Chat. I'm going to be talking about socks today. We're really excited. Socks is one of those products that we've been working on for a long time. I started over 3 years ago, and it was one of the products that we wanted to launch. And we finally launched it. We're glad that there is a lot of talk on the forums because this is a product that we think will do well, and we're excited that you guys are excited. That being said, today I'm going to do 3 things. The first, I'm going to show you the actual sock so you can see kind of how it's printed, the actual product itself. 2, I'm going to walk through some of the questions that I've seen on the forum so that you guys can have all your questions answered. And 3, I'm going to give you guys some design tips. So, first of all, I'm going to show you the actual sock. So, here's the sock. Here's a sample. So the site will show you, we show it flat. There's this 1 view, 2 view, and then you see it as a pair. You'll notice that there's a black toe and a black heel, and you can't design on those. And there's 2 sizes. They're unisex socks, so depending on your size, you can check out the drop down. That being said, how is the product printed? So it's actually laid flat and it's sublimated printing. So it's heat transfer. So we put it down, we kind of put the actual design on it and heat transfer the design. And then we flip it over on the other side and do the same thing. So it's a pre-made sock. So there's actually no seam between, it's like normal socks. But there is a color seam almost, or design seam that I will show you now. I was gonna put them on my feet, but I thought this might be a little cleaner. I'm not a hand model, but I'm definitely not a foot model. So, putting it on my hand, you see the seam. Again, it's a design seam, it's not a real seam since the sock is pre-made. So, you can see in this design, the designer tried to do lemons, and so they don't align perfectly here and here and here, but we do as best as we can. So that's the lemon sock. I'll just show you some more designs. So there's words on it. I'll put my hand through. This one looks pretty good actually. If you're like really trying to write something where it's cohesive, it might be hard to do that. But I think from the look, it kind of blends right in if it's on your foot. So this one looks pretty good. Next one, we have this blue sock. It's got like a little pattern on with white speckles. Let's see how this seam looks. So again, this one, it kind of varies. You can definitely see that there's a slight seam running down the middle. But that being said, it still kind of blends right into the design. So the designer was pretty clever on how they created this sock. So this is a pretty watercolor triangle pattern. And then lastly, I'm going to show you what it would look like if there's pictures in it. So here, this is a sock with kind of a female model. And then it's a darker, so when you see it kind of like stretched out on my arm, and granted I don't have the skinniest arm, but they're smaller than some people's calves, so you'll notice that there's gonna be, because it's a dark print and when it's stretched out, you're gonna see some of the white behind the model. That being said, this is like every other sock, or this is like every other cloth pattern, where it kind of, if the more you pull it, the more you're going to see the white. So it looks a little better on like this one, where it kind of blends because the design has white in it. So just something to keep in mind. Obviously, I mean, most people don't wear the sock like this, but just something to keep in mind. So this is the actual product, and it's pretty cool. The fabric of the toes are 100% cotton. The white part is 78% poly, 20% cotton, and 2% spandex to give it that pull and feel. So next I'm going to walk through some of the questions that were on the forums and answer them one by one. So first of all, do these socks have a seam between the right and left side? And if they don't have a seam, then do you end up with a white line along the front and back where it's printed? So I kind of explained this earlier when I showed the sock. It's not a seam, but it's not a white line either. So there is a design seam, but there's not a white line. So I hope that helps answer that one. Will we get an in situ view for these? We're working on it. I can't make a promise. We want to make sure it looks good in the in situ view. We do have some marketing shots that are coming up that I think will help the customer better understand how the sock's printed. And if you guys order any socks and you guys want to put your pictures, we will feature them in the review section as well. So can't promise in situ views. We're definitely working on them though. Can we add a skew filter? Yes. So because it is kind of different between like the two sizes, large and small, we did go ahead and add a skew filter in. It's already live, but it does make shopping for a customer a little hard if you skew filter just for large or small. So if you want to create one for each size, that's a possibility, but just know that if you want to sell them and you want to sell them for both, then if you create a skew filter, you should probably create 2 different products and post them for sale. They say that the background color looks distorted or washed out. And is this how it's going to be printed? So like I said, the white part is 78% polyester and 20% cotton. I think the cotton kind of helps takes in some of that ink color. That being said, it's still pretty vibrant. As you can see, I really like this lemon. This yellow is still pretty vibrant. I wouldn't say it's as vibrant as like if you're printing on white paper, because the ink does take some of that vibrancy. That being said, I would say it's not 100% vibrancy, it's probably like an 80% vibrancy. So I think those are some of the limitations on cloth or on fabric. The next question is, why not give us a single option to place a single image on the front and back? Because of how we actually print the sock, we don't want to promise or overpromise that the alignment can match perfectly, which is why we give you a front and back design. So in the future, if we continue to work on socks and socks sell really well, and that's something that customers want to see, then we will look at developing that. But for the time being, you can only design on one side, 2 side, and then obviously the other pair. So that is a limitation for socks. The next question. When you are printing these socks, do you put them on a form that spreads out the rib cuffs? If you print them as is, when somebody puts on the socks and the rib cuff spreads out, is there going to be gaps in the design on the cuffs? So I hopefully I answered that question earlier as well, but we do not put it on a form. It is printed like this, and then when you stretch out, there is the kind of gaps in the sock ribbing. So be prepared for that. Next question, is there something in the process that makes it impossible to just print the sock in one go? Again, answered this earlier, but yes, because of how it's printed, we don't have a rig or a 360 printer that can kind of like surround the sock and print it all at once. That would be an amazing technology, and if someone has developed it, please let us know. But in the meantime, again, one side and 2 side. And then seems like doing patterns might be an issue for these socks is a concern that I've seen on the forums. I actually disagree. I think if you do your pattern right, it can look really good on these socks. I think this lemon pattern looks good. Yes, it doesn't align perfectly, but it still is a very bright and colorful lemon socks. I think this blue looks really well as well. I showed you the seam. There's an overlap, but because of the pattern, it kind of almost blends in with the rest of the sock. This text doesn't line up perfectly, but again, it kind of blends in with the rest of the sock. So, I mean, unless you're like trying to write an essay, I think it looks pretty good. So those were all the questions. Hopefully I can answer the rest on the forums if I missed any. And then the third is I promised some design tips. So regarding designing on them, I talked about a large and a small sock. So we did add that skew filter. So if you want to make sure, if you really want your design to line up as perfectly as possible, I would suggest publishing on a large and small sock separately. The second is I think lighter colors, because of the base, seem to do well. So like when you pull this, it's not as obvious as when it's printed on a darker sock. So like a black sock, when you pull it, you're gonna see the ribbing. And so, design your sock accordingly. I think because this lemon sock already has, it has white in the design element, it looks a little better than this, whereas there's not as much white and it's a little starker. So those are some of my design tips. I think if you saw some of the iterations that we went through, we previously tried to do an all-white sock, but I think that the toe and the heel kind of help give it that sock illusion. Otherwise, it would have even more seam areas where it kind of doesn't line up as perfectly. We tried to actually print it the other way, so we lay it flat like the front and back. But I think doing it side to side actually looks better, because when you wear the sock, you're going to see this side and this side. And that's another tip is if you design within this area and do this side and this side, I think the sock will look really good, because this is really where kind of the expression shows. So as one of my coworkers said, I think custom socks are a great way to say anything with your feet. I think we are really excited about socks. We're going to be promoting them throughout the holiday. Hopefully they're new products, so we're excited for them to do well. I think they're great for Christmas matching socks, matching pajamas. A lot of potential there on designing like family names. Again, I probably say it every time I'm on Zazzle chat, but templates. Anything, make sure you fill in kind of the names. Make sure you fill in the template fields when you design on them. I think templates, and lastly, make sure they're mobile friendly. I think these will be a product that customers can easily change the name and buy them on the website. So socks are really fun, but instead of listening to me drone on about socks, go out and design some of your own. So until next time.